An elven warrior trapped on modern-day Earth. Two friends with different destinies meet at a magical school. These are some of the stories we at Electric Eclipse Comics are working on. You can get your copies of both The Mana Chronicles and Tales of Itherel at elpmerch.com. Support independent creators. Explore the merch featuring exciting ELP Comics art with a wide range of designs. Electric Eclipse Comics. Imagination electrified.
Never stop learning, because life never stops teaching. Every experience, whether good or bad, holds a lesson. In every challenge, there's growth. Every failure offers wisdom. Life is constantly evolving, and so should we. The moment we think we know it all, we close the door to possibility. Stay curious, stay open, and remember that every day is an opportunity to become a little wiser, a little stronger, and a little better than before.
Well, welcome, Oil Runners. How are you guys doing today? We have a very special guest. We have somebody who has been on the Hollywood Squares. Also, we also have someone who's an author, and he's written for the Academy Awards, as far as I've known, and all kinds of other stuff. So we're going to learn about his life and his journey in this life. So we're going to bring in Bruce Vilanch here in a second, but I also want to bring in this new thing where we have like this little joke. So you're in Alaska when you need a jumper cables to jumpstart the driver. So just that Alaska joke that we can just go for. So we're going to bring in Bruce in 2 seconds. Welcome in. Welcome in.
I'm being jump-started as we speak.
Hey, look, I got the jumper cables. It's like, absolutely. I noticed that you're Travis Kelce's mother.
I am. The resemblance is startling. I mean,
nice.
Ever since she showed up at the Super Bowl with Taylor Swift, I started getting calls during the game from people saying, "Dude, what are you doing at the Super Bowl with Taylor?"
Nice.
I mean, red glasses, blonde hair, and I think she has probably less chin than this. I mean, I hope so for her sake, because I certainly have to shave it, so it's all right.
Did you ever meet her yet?
No, I haven't. I'm working on that. I would just hope I hope this couple stays together, because I'm going to run with this joke for a while.
Absolutely. That would be
nice.
That would be a picture to have.
Actually, I met Taylor Swift years ago through one of her many boyfriends she's written songs about.
Boyfriend number what? 1 through.
I've lost track. I don't. I'm not like Swiftie, so they come across now and again. I run into them at one thing or another, and oh God, you were a Swiftie for a minute, right? Yeah.
Oh man! So did you run into him from at the award shows and all that stuff? Like,
no, actually, it was at a dinner, because she was going with a friend of mine for a minute, and it was at a dinner, and it was a long time ago. I mean, she was about like 19 or 20. I don't know how old she is now, but she was. So it feels like a long time ago, because she's been like in the front of everybody's consciousness for since she's hit. But it was a while back. She was charming, lovely. I mean, nothing consequential happened. I'm sorry to report. I didn't do anything that you could write a song about. I don't think.
Dag nabbit.
I may have spilled something, but not on her. So didn't count.
Yeah. So how did you get into all of this? Like, where was your start at?
Well, I was a child actor in New Jersey. I was never a child star, or we'd be having this conversation in rehab, because they don't do well by and large. Okay. So, and my parents were enabling. They really were. They knew I was having fun doing that. So I was doing that a lot in New York, and local television in New York, and stage. And then I kind of outgrew myself. And I had a deep voice, and I was kind of heavy, and I would be going up against actors who were older, who were much more authentic than I, and so I started writing, and I was writing about all of that when I was in high school. And it seemed I developed a talent for that, and took that with me to college and was a journalist, and always also was acting on the side. I was at the Chicago Tribune for 5 years, and that's where I met Bette Midler, who was just starting out. And I began, she was playing a club there, and I started writing for her. And 5 years later, I was writing for a whole bunch of people, and the people of the Chicago Tribune said, you do have a job here. So I thought, yeah, but at just that point, a group that Bette had helped start called the Manhattan Transfer got a television series out here in Hollywood. And I came out here. And as Bette says, he had his bags packed. He never looked back. So I was out here, and I've been still working with her, actually, but 50 years later, excuse me, let me get the stimulant there. Thank you very much. Jumpstart. So that's how I got into it. And I was writing for a lot of performers, and with the advent of cable, the variety show format kind of died. And so I began writing a lot of award shows and things like that. And after 20 years of that, they brought back Hollywood Squares the last time with Whoopi, and I was in the square to the left of Whoopi, if that's possible.
I remember.
I was the head writer, and we had 6 glorious years doing that. And it's back now with Drew Barrymore in the center square.
I didn't know that.
I wish them well, because it'd be fun to be on it again.
Oh man, yeah. So what was that experience like on the Hollywood Squares?
Well, it was a lot of fun. I mean, we'd shoot 5 of them. Well, I'd started working in the original, at the tail end. The original one was on for 14 years before you were born, and I was toward the end of it. Paul Lind, who was a center square, was also on Donnie and Marie, which is the show that I was writing, and they would shoot squares at night in those days. And so after we would finish rehearsing, he would grab me and he would say, "Come with me to Squares. I haven't got shit. Give me where." So we would write jokes in the car. And so that was my first experience doing it. And then it came back later on with Joan Rivers, and I did some work then. But the last one was we did 5 shows a day. We would do weekends. We would do 2 weeks on a weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And so we only worked 36 days a year. How about that? Kind of like a plumber that I work with. And it was, but it was intense getting that all together for those shows, and being the head writer and being a square. But it was great fun when we were shooting it. There were everybody was pretty much on good behavior, because there were always 8 other people. If you were acting up, there'd be 8 other people looking at you going, "Girl, pull it together. We'll be here all night." So that people were discouraged from diva activity. There were a couple, every now and again, but basically it was a party atmosphere, and we would have lunch between show 3 and 4, and there would be wine. So shows 4 and 5 were always a lot looser, Thursday and Friday shows.
That makes more sense.
Yes, but we discovered that from the marketing people that the audiences liked that, because they were, by the end of the week, people who were watching it were also exhausted and ready, and kind of having a glass of wine themselves.
Right. But
fascinating things you learn from marketing people.
Right. And those were the days where we can go home from school being sick and watch all those shows with The Price is Right and with the chicken noodle soup, and
yeah, that was when I was a kid. The daytime shows. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we were what they call primetime access. We were like 7:30. It would be 6:30 in Alaska, before the big network shows kicked in.
Yeah, so before MASH comes in.
The good part about that is that we could gear more of it to real double entendre, sexy stuff, right? Because it was an audience. It wasn't people watching at 11 o'clock in the morning, where theoretically back then you had to be a little. Now it doesn't matter. Now Whoopi's on 10 o'clock in the morning here on The View, and she lets fire with whatever, and so do all of those ladies. So, but it was just a little bit different. Now it's a primetime extravaganza. It's only once a week with Drew Barrymore in the center. Cheers.
Oh yeah. All right. Yeah. I got you.
Bourbon masquerading as Diet Snapple.
Yeah.
Kidding.
Simple coffee.
Yes, kidding.
Oh man. I heard you did one of my favorite movies. It was me and my dad always loved it. You worked with Tim Curry on the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Well, I didn't work on that. I worked with Tim after the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Tim became a star, and he got an album deal with Lou Adler on Ode Records at A&M, and so he recorded an album. But he was not a rock singer. He was sort of weird, sort of kind of cabaret, somewhere in the middle of all of it. And we put together an act. That's what I did with Tim. We put together an act that he played all the rock clubs, and he had things to say because he's brilliantly funny. And people came thinking it was going to be Frankenfurter the whole show, and of course some of it was, but that's not who he was or is. Right. Any of the above. Right,
man. Yeah, that movie was definitely.
But I was in New York with him, and this was early in the Rocky, when the movie was released, and it had become a cult movie. And there was a little theater in the Village called the Waverly, and on Friday nights and Saturday nights at midnight they showed it. The audience would show up in costume and what they now call cosplay, and talk back to the screen, throw things and all that stuff. So we wanted to go see it. So we went down to the Village, and there was a line around the block filled with a lot of people who looked like Tim Curry as Frankenfurter. And so we just went up to the box office, and he said, I'm Tim Curry. And she said, yeah, sure. She said, you're no, she turned. She was an old box office lady, and she turned to the man and said, Morris, another one says he's Tim Curry. And Morris kind of went, and she turned back and she went like this, and Tim said, no, I really am Tim Curry. And he pulled out his passport and showed it to her. And she said, Morris, this one's got a passport. And Morris had to come over. And Morris came up and go, oh my God, you're Tim Curry. That's what I've been telling this nice lady.
Oh, so my gosh.
We walked it in to the back, and we could watch the whole thing. So we could watch it unfold before us. I don't know if you've ever been to one of those Rocky Horror late night.
Not the shows. Movies. I just watched.
Oh my God! Well, in its day, I don't know what they do now, but they still do them. We do them in LA. There's one every weekend. There's a new art. But we are now 2 generations away from the original movie. So,
right.
It's kids who grew up watching it maybe on VHS or even on DVD or streaming it, but they're still doing it. Apparently, they're still doing the time warp in the aisle and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think that one's like a classic. Like what's the one? Back to the Future. Kind of. It's going to be staying in all the generations somehow.
I think. Well, it appeals. Look, it's about outliers. It's about this straight couple that stumbles upon a castle full of outliers, and how they react to it, and that's like a perennial idea. Fish out of water, and you can go identifying as the fish, or you can go as identifying as the other things in the water. So in this new water, and I think any kid who feels like they're not exactly standard issue kid feels better when they go to see Rocky Horror.
Right. Yeah. You were saying earlier that you were in rehab. Now I can identify with that.
No, I was joking. I said if I had been a child star, I would be in rehab.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood. My bad. Have you been in any drinking or drugs or anything like that, or like
Oh, I did everything. Yeah. I mean, I'm very old. So I remember, anybody who tells you they remember the 60s or the 70s wasn't there. But I do remember the 70s. I was active in that period. But I elaborate on it a lot. I embroider. And when in this book that I've written, I talk about writing the Star Wars holiday special. And in fact, I address this because I always tell a story about me and Carrie Fisher that we were snorting the sweet and low in the commissary. But and so then I began getting reviews saying Vilanch, who admits to copious drug abuse. And I thought, wait a minute. I'm a victim of my own hype. I embroidered. I did everything. I did all the things we were all doing, except I never did heroin because I didn't want to shoot up anything, and that was what you had to do. Or freebase, I never did that. But I did all the initial drugs and smoked all the kind of stuff you're supposed to smoke. But I was not a heavy drinker, and but it gets things get embroidered as you get older and are describing stuff. So, and I hung around. I was living with somebody who was in Al-Anon, which is a program of people who sleep with alcoholics, basically. And so I was around that a lot and became friends with tons of AA people and did a lot of AA benefit roundup shows, things like that. So somewhere along the line, people said, "Oh, he must really have a problem." But I never did. And they were with me. Anybody who knew me knew that was all hype.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, because I can identify with the drugs and the alcohol. I didn't,
Most people in Alaska can. In my experience, when I was in Alaska, and people I know who've gone to Alaska, is that there are a lot of them who are there because they just want to get away, and they're looking for a place where nobody will bother them, where they won't be judged. They'll get paid for living there by the government.
Yep.
And they can just do what they want to do, provided they have enough warm clothing.
Because when I first moved up here years ago, that actually is a true saying. They told me the first time, you're either born here in Alaska or you're running away from something coming to Alaska. That's the only two types of people. And I was like, that's weird to say. But then I thought about it. I was like, wait, I ran away. So I guess it is a true saying. So now,
right.
But it is a nice getaway, and I call it, I tell people, like, look, I can hide in plain sight. Y'all don't know. I could be on Facebook or TikTok or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I'm right here, and everything. And you guys still won't come up because, like, oh, I've always wanted to go to Alaska. I know you ain't coming. That's like, we all laugh about that. You know what I mean? It's like one of those. Okay.
They wind up going on an Alaska cruise.
Yeah. Did you like your cruise? What was the cruise
I loved that. I was performing as a gay cruise, and I performed on it. It was great, but we had unseasonably good weather. I mean, when we got to Juneau, it was May, and it was about 70 degrees. And people were canceling left and right because they could run around the deck in Speedos, which is why they really do gay cruises. But I wasn't going to. I mean, I took the helicopter, the Mendenhall Glacier, and I took the dog ride, the dog sleds. I did the full value, and because I wanted to see it. I wanted to see it. And on the glacier, it was nice and snowy.
Absolutely.
And so Hubbard Glacier was spectacular, and all of those things are great. That it's a magnificent part of the country.
Yeah, that helicopter ride, I did that last year for the first time. Loved it. I
called my mother. I was on top of the Mendenhall Glacier, and I got cell service going up. I called her here in Florida, and I said, I'm standing on a glacier in Alaska. She said, I'm playing canasta. Can I call you back?
It's like, that Nabbit, why can't you support me?
I knew better than to call at that hour, but how often am I going to be on the top of a glacier in Alaska?
Exactly. I mean, it is such an experience to experience. It is so worth the money to pay the companies to do that, and then when they're doing, I found out that the helicopters, they do have, like, they work with the movie directors and all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff. They have all different things so that you can get the shot. They'll do the shot, they'll come close to whatever, and I was like, wow, I didn't know that. I'll pay the money when I'm doing a movie. I'll definitely pay. That's worth it. And
Right.
just
Yeah.
up there for just an 18 minutes of like at the state fair.
Yeah.
You got to experience the state fair. It's kind of cool. The state fair, they have a helicopter ride, and it's like an 18-minute ride. It's not the full hour, but it is still worth you still get that experience, a beautiful
fjord
experience.
Stuff. It is. It's incredible. I thought when I went for the dog sled, I said, "Am I going to be too big for this ride?" Because I was too big for the Harry Potter ride at Universal.
Oh no!
And that's because you have to put a bar next to your thing, and it was I couldn't breathe when I put the bar down. So I thought, well, I'm going to be too big for these dogs. And the guy looked at me and said, "This is Alaska. Are you kidding? Get on. Nothing. You're slim. Get on."
Yeah, that's my favorite time of year is the Iditarod. I help with that, and I do photography for that too. Well, and all that stuff. But yeah, they'll put you on the, what was it? I have never seen this in my life, and I think we're the only people that can get away with this. Is a person. I was doing security for the Iditarod in the middle of the woods. Okay, so you got those long sleds, and then the person had a black trash bag full of stuff in there, but it looked like a body. Then he had a hatchet, right?
Oh.
And he's just pulling it, and I was just like, okay, we all knew, we're not that stupid, but still, I was like, only in Alaska would we all think, just go ahead, go down the, we're good. Just don't let the dogs, we'll call out when the dogs come by. And I was like, that is so weird that you can get away with that kind of stuff. But but just pulling it on, and then they'll have a snowmobile doing that, and the kids will be on the back of on the sleds on the back of the snowmobiles, and with all their stuff. And I said, you gotta be kidding me. But this is crazy, and the experience with the dogs, that is an experience to experience, is being on that sled itself. Those dogs have some power to them. Just don't want to be pooped on while I'm in that little spot, That's the only problem. They don't stop for nothing. They just go.
Soup.
Yep. But yeah. Oh man. Oh, I can't wait for this year. That's. But are you gonna come back up here?
I would love to. I haven't been in a while, but I haven't had occasion. Once I had a gig in Anchorage some years ago, a big birthday party a guy brought me up for, and then the cruising stuff. But when you said before that everybody is people who were born in Alaska, I remember the line in Juneau. The guy said, "People come here. The only way you can get here is to fly in or through the Juneau Canal or through the birth canal."
Yep. Like the birth canal. Yeah, pretty much.
Right. Because you can't drive there. You can't drive there from anywhere.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's the coolest thing, but the weirdest thing, it's like an adjusted thing. And then the timing, say, like, I mean, I haven't been to California, so I don't but just going from town to town or city to city, like it'd be like a 30-minute, like, oh, well, I distance it like from my house to Seward, it's like 2.5 hours, right?
Yeah.
So my house to Seward equaled from like Pennsylvania, Middletown to somewhere in New Jersey or New York. That's the distance from my house to Seward.
Listen, they have a TV show, Alaska Highways, which I actually watch, about truckers driving to Nome and Barrow and Dutch Harbor and places like that. If you can even drive to Dutch Harbor, I don't know. It's not connected, right?
No, I think my friend, when she did security, she had to fly in.
I think it's not like the Florida Keys where there's a road that links all of them. It's not like that in the Aleutians. Mm-mm. And that's where you really can see Russia from your house.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. and
I've
you can
always
walk.
wanted to go there. I don't know. I'm sure there's nothing there once I get there. I mean, there'll be something interesting. There always is, but nothing that might warrant that kind of a schlep. I love that Jodie Foster had to go to Iceland to shoot that series about people in, I guess, Nome or Barrow, wherever that town is supposed to be. And I think that's because they just didn't have the facilities to shoot in those places. And Iceland had been developed by Game of Thrones, and they had a whole film industry setup you could walk into with your project, and that doesn't exist that far north in Alaska, from what I understand.
We need
Sarah
to figure
Palin might correct me, but I don't know.
Yeah, we need to figure something out on that. I guess I can attest to that a little bit. Yeah, because it's a little different on that end.
Yeah.
And portraying
the
movie.
That There's a series about Ted Stevens Airport.
Yeah.
That's on Smithsonian or something like that. That just is like, this is how we run this airport in the most ridiculous weather possible.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, and then like they have heated streets, and
Parking meters are actually heaters, like speakers in drive-in movies back in the day.
Yep. And but even Valdez, flying into Valdez on the jet, it was quite interesting to be in a circle in the mountains, in the circle of the mountains. I was like, wow, like you're literally right in the middle, just land. I was like, oh, okay. And then all these eagles were around me, and I was like, this is new. Like, then a bear can be right at the plane, like on the thing. I said, you gotta be kidding me. What is going on here? Then you're just, you know what I mean? But it is like that experience. Like it's like one of those. If you're not an outside person, don't come.
You wouldn't know.
Yeah, you can't treat Alaska like the cities out in a different in the States kind of thing. Like, I mean, you got whales downtown and all that. Like, you just don't know what's going to happen, honestly. Yeah. But yeah, I heard you were working with Dolly Parton too at one point in life. Too.
Yes, I've worked with her over the years on a TV show that was a spectacular failure. But and then on her act, and then I wrote a musical with her, which is currently in the UK, and it's in Glasgow, Scotland, right now. If you happen to be going over to Glasgow, it was an idea that we had during COVID. It's about a 40-year-old gay comic who's never happened, and he's working at a comedy club in New York as a waiter, and COVID hits, and the club closes, and he has to quarantine in the attic of his parents' home in Longview, Texas, where he has an intimate relationship with his imaginary friend, Dolly Parton. She steps down off of a poster, and in the course of one long night, she kind of cures him of what ails him.
So she's going to be playing herself then, or somebody?
There's an actress who plays her. We've done it. We did 6 regional productions in the lower 48. And I wanted to go to the Anchorage Rep, but we couldn't get it together with them. But we did then, and now we're doing 6 months in the UK. We just did London, and I think we may go back to London. And if not, we start in Australia in June for 6 months, winding up in Sydney at Christmas this year. So it's, and then we're talking about bringing it over, doing a bigger production. It's a small show. It's 2 characters and 5 musicians. So it's a small show, but we're thinking about options to bring it back to America.
Okay.
It's called Here You Come Again, by the way, if you run into it. Here You Come Again, How Dolly Saved My Life in 12 Easy Songs.
Nice. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's her new project, your new project. You got that book coming out.
I have the book. The book is about how I wrote the worst TV shows in history and lived. And it stemmed from podcasts like this, where people like you would ask me about the Star Wars Holiday Special, the Paul Lynde Halloween Special, the Brady Bunch Variety Hour, all things I wrote in the 70s. And I thought were dead and buried, and the internet brought back. And now 2 whole new generations have been watching these shows on the internet, and whenever I do a podcast, they would say, how did this show happen? Who said yes? to doing it. And have they paid their debt to society?
Oh,
So I thought there's a book in this. So it's called It Seemed Like a Bad Idea at the Time. How I Wrote the Worst TV Shows in History, and some other things. Broadway and one thing or another. Movies, I have a few of them in there. And it's on Amazon pre-order. And it drops officially March 4th, which is right after the Oscars, which I've written 25 of officially. So, but only one of them is in that book, the first one, because it was a scandalous one back in 1989 with Rob Lowe dancing with Snow White. And it's a great story, and it's all in the book.
Oh man, we'll definitely have to get that. I'm gonna want an autographed copy. So how I'm gonna have to get
this can be arranged.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to get that. What?
And Ash from the Flames.
Ash from the Flames. Okay, and that's on Amazon.
The air quality here is so weird because there's still smoke and ash in the air from the fires. So every now and again.
How far are you from the?
Well, I was evacuated because there was a fire up in the Hollywood Hills. It was a small one, but it was about the first one, and it was put out before the winds got so harsh that they couldn't put anything in the air. The reason the fires were so devastating was the winds were insane, and they couldn't put up choppers with fire retardant, and so they were fighting it from the ground with water. And of course, they never have to just do it solely with water, a big fire. They always have air support. And so, of course, they were pumping so much water. I mean, how do you put out 1,000 house fires? So they ran out of water because they're not accustomed. It's not designed for that because we've never had winds like this. Right. So that was why the conflagration. And there are still pop-ups, but now it's firebugs and homeless encampments. Unfortunately, a lot of people live in the hills who are homeless, and they don't set fires, but they cook and whatnot, and an ember can catch the brush. And then there are other people who are firebugs who enjoy getting off on watching the fire, and watching the firemen. I have a theory.
I'm going to go with that theory too, because that kind of makes sense to me too.
Yeah, I mean, very, very macho stereotype. Except the women too, they're just. Yeah,
they want to be rescued. I mean, who?
Well, there's that, yeah. But rescue in this case means arrested.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's still a rescue.
They want that too.
Like, as long as you come here, we're good. Right. I'll take the 5 seconds of the,
that was how Australia started. They would say to criminals, you can do time in jail, or we can ship you to Australia and you can have a new life there. And that's why, nobody in Australia came over on the Mayflower. They traced their ancestry back to horse thieves, pickpockets, I mean, the first wave, that was what the colony was. And if you were very wealthy and didn't want to go there to be seen, they would send you to Kenya, where you become a planter. Like out of Africa. Those were all high level miscreants who had been sent to a foreign country to get out of their native land.
Oh wow. That's crazy. Man. Do you have any
Alaska has something to do. I mean, but people aren't sent to Alaska, they choose to go. It's different. There's a small but subtle difference. Significant difference.
Yeah, you know what? We had at one point, I'm not sure if it's still going. They're trying to send the homeless out to your guys' areas, to California.
Probably, yeah. Everything comes to California.
I was like, so if you have all the money, you don't want to pay for the homeless here, to help out or even have the ideas. A lot of people have great ideas to help this whole situation, but it's not being supported, right? So, but I was like, my question is why would you send them out if you don't want to fund it? You have enough funds to send all these people out, but you don't want to help support the community to be able to build whatever needs to be built for the homeless people. Right. I'm not understanding. And then, you guys already have enough homeless people at your place. We and our people are like literally they are frozen to death, literally.
I would think it's not
It's
Very
not fun.
harsh environment to be homeless in. Hawaii would be better.
Yeah,
Hawaii's
right.
got a serious problem too because of that. But you
Yeah,
have to get to Hawaii first, which is always
a
a
fun
process.
deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I just never understood that logic of you don't want to help your own community. You
Yeah.
say no, 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 but yet you want to give them off to somebody else,
Right.
and expect that, and they already have a issue, and then we can help, and we're having, yay, let's go into Congress or whatever we got to go into. We have this idea, we would need help with the funding,
Right.
but it's a mess. Like,
Hmm.
but yeah, we've had people, I've watched bears come up into the camps, literal black bears were just walking up the hill, and I said, this is really serious, man. And I mean, it's just literal camping. I mean, I've had it done to me too, but still, you still in the summer, it's a little different. And the moose coming up next to you, to your tent and all that, and then you're
Hmm.
frozen to death, you don't have the heaters, the warmers in the hands and all that stuff. And I was like, wow, this is crazy.
Hmm.
Imagine being in the -20s. So now you see North Carolina now going into into all around the world. Like, there's just different temperatures. It's just crazy to see that people have to go through that. It's not a fun deal.
Maybe the climate change is real.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just need to connect and help each other, and whatnots. But it's crazy. Do you have any nuggets that you could give to, like, if kids or adults that are like in the writing or trying to do something, to inspirational?
Well, if you want to
Right.
be in comedy, it's very important that you be funny. And you'd be amazed at how many people think they're funny, but in reality, they're not funny. But that aside, I mean, that's not for me to judge. Uh, I used to say it used to be much, much harder to get into the business. And now with the internet, you can create your own thing. Look at Randy Rainbow. Look at some of these people who have gigantic careers as influencers. And they translate that into money and into access to other things, mainly by doing funny stuff, doing funny videos, whatever, and putting it on the internet. And you will be discovered if you do that. It won't take long. It can start with Instagram or TikTok while it's around, or Threads, Blue Sky. I mean, there are all these places you can post things, and people will see you. YouTube, of course, is the number one place to post stuff, because there are people trolling YouTube looking for new talent. So that would be, if that's what you're looking to be, a performer or a writer who writes for a performer or can put some stuff together himself to perform. You don't even ever have to perform again once you've established yourself. But that's a great way to do it. The old way of writing a spec script and hoping you can find an agent and all that, this turns it upside down. They come to you once you've made the effort. Once you usually could never get people to read anything or look at anything, and now they're desperate to look at things and read things. But they have to see some evidence first.
Okay. So, like, when you're writing a script and everything, and you have something good, and you want to sell it, right? How do you put a price on that? If
Well, the Writers Guild is helpful in that area. They establish what they call scale, which is the minimum amount that a studio, a network, a streaming platform, anybody who's a signatory to the Writers Guild contracts can is the least they can pay you. And when you're at the beginning, you start with that and you negotiate your way up. So, and also, you're a fool if you do it yourself. You should have some professional guidance. You should have an agent or a manager or a lawyer, someone like that on your team, who can deal with the other side of the table.
Okay.
And it's not hard to establish what a price for something is after a while, because there are certain commonly accepted parameters that people will throw out at you, and you negotiate with that.
Okay. Yeah,
Wow.
I always wondered how that would work, because that's a lot of, you'll sell it and then they make millions of dollars, and stuff like that. And then um you're like, well, man, I could have.
For a writer, books and theater are the joke was it's a great place to make a killing, but a lousy place to make a living
Hmm.
because you don't get paid much for developing the material, but if it's successful, you get residuals,
Okay.
royalty. It keeps coming in. In the movie and television business, uh, they will give you a lot of money up front in exchange for no back end. It's called where you just don't get the residuals anymore. The Writers Guild was built on the residual model, and so that's why you really could make money writing movies. You get paid a lot up front, plus you would have a piece of the back end. And now the streamers like Netflix and Apple and Amazon are not in the movie business or the TV business. Amazon's in the delivery business, Apple's in the computer business, and Netflix is in the Netflix business. So
Right.
Netflix just will pay you a lot of money, and then you go away. They're, I think, tempering that a little bit now, and that was what the last strike was all about. But I haven't seen evidence of it too much. But when you see people doing deals with Netflix, so you think, gee, I wonder why he would do that. Why would he go there as opposed to a movie that'll be in a theater? It's because there's a huge buyout up front. Now, some people like Margot Robbie just is doing a new version of Wuthering Heights, a classic novel that's been made into a movie a couple of times. And she took the Warner Brothers deal because it involved a theatrical release because she wanted to make a movie to be seen in theaters. Netflix offered her a more lucrative deal, but it would they might put it in a theater for a week to qualify for the Oscars, which is what you have to be in a theater for a week and to qualify. So
Okay.
uh, they might have, but she didn't want that. She didn't want to do the movie for Netflix. She wanted to do it for theater goers.
Huh.
Call her crazy. It seemed to work with Barbie. So
Yeah. But I mean, I guess it's her vision. So I mean,
yeah,
that it'll just, the money goes where the
right.
vision. Yeah. That makes more sense.
Hmm.
And that was her passion on that end. Um, yeah. Shoot. If you were to leave a legacy on this earth, what would it be in your life? Like your personal legacy, like.
Oh, I think that I was kind. That would be my legacy. I mean, I was kind and funny, and that would kind of be enough. I mean, it's not like I've left some significant work of art that is a legacy. Uh, but as my manager keeps saying to me, you are a work of art. So, and she's
Yeah.
being very flattering, but uh, it's performance art, I guess. So
Mhm.
I don't think about that too much because when you're gone, and they're gonna say whatever they're gonna say. But I think that if they're gonna say anything, it would be, well, he wasn't the bastard. He was nice. He was a kind guy.
Okay. Okay. Well, I want to conclude this.
Thank you.
We're pretty much at the mark.
Yeah, sure.
And I would love to have you on again. I mean, because there's so much there that,
Sure. The
the
after the book
journey.
is out and people have had a chance to read it, then we can have a
Absolutely.
call-in show.
Ab- Absolutely. Yeah, because definitely after that, because I'm buying that book for sure. And but no, I thank you for coming on, and hopefully even when Dolly comes out with the movie, you and Dolly and everything, and we can all kind of get together, put it on, put it out there as well, if that's okay. I mean, I'm just saying, but like for
If
any,
sure, it's not a movie; it's a stage musical. So
it does,
we'll see. Yeah,
it's I mean, it's out there, you know what I mean? It's just to support it and to put it everywhere, like you said, bring
good.
it out, and
Great.
just to be there. Um, but you got me now, the
All
oil
right.
runners, to help you out
Thank
to
you.
support. I may just be a
Oil
little old,
runners.
but but definitely willing to help you in all that you do, and whoever you have in your life to help out. But we definitely thank you for being on the show.
My
and really,
pleasure. Have fun.
yeah.
Stay warm.
And so in Alaska, you're gonna learn a word. It's called chinan, which is thank you in the Dene
Chinan.
language.
Very
So we
good.
thank Chinan for watching, guys, and Chinan for coming on, and welcome back to Alaska. So so we thank you. We love you guys, and look for the book, buy the books. Go to wegotbruce.com. You can connect with all that and everything, and look him up. He's got a lot of great stuff, and we're going to dig more into him, his life, his journey. And by the way, Steve Joyner says hello, big hugs, and a big kiss. So,
he started a lot of this.
Yep. He's definitely a good connection on that end. So definitely. So shout out to you, Steve. So we love you all.